Hello. Yeah. So I didn't start with hello YouTube. So yeah, this one's gonna be, I guess, a little bit serious. But I just watched a video that one of my friends posted, and it really got me kind of thinking about the way that you grow up and kind of how things can define you. Through this. Sorry, my computer's making a lot of noise. It's uploading like a 255 megabyte video to YouTube at the moment because it was originally 6 gigabytes, and so I compressed it, and it's still 30 minutes long. It's the Silent House, so you'll get that soon. But so I just wanted to talk about kind of an issue that a lot of my friends face, and in a way that's different that I kind of faced growing up. Obviously, I didn't really kind of face it with a racial sense, but kind of more of a where's home, and the common issue that we face in these modern times is identity. Back in the day, everyone, kind of, well, we stereotype it like that, but no one really kind of had to come with this example of self, because outside of, all of this stuff, who am I, is my inner soul. It's really become kind of this mainstream Western thought of, deep down, who am I? Trying to explore and find, everyone's trying to find their really kind of personal identity that defines them apart from everybody else. The concept of the soul, the concept of, who am I at the core of my being. And so, I just want to quickly kind of give you a little brief layout of kind of what happened to me and kind of the stuff that I faced. So when I was a kid, I was a Californian mountain boy kid, small town up in the mountains right near Yosemite, California. I grew up in what I later found out was kind of the largest KKK community. So very small white town in the mountains of California. I grew up in a house. My parents had jobs. My mom, looked after me as a kid. I went to the church. I grew up in the church. It was a very kind of small white town Christian community, and that was my life. And I felt like that, looking back on everything, because hindsight is 20/20, I feel like that was the only time in my life where I was on a path that was very similar to, I guess, what I considered normal. And so I was just a white kid in California with, parents in a house, going to school, normal. That was my normal state in life. And at the age of about 7, my parents, who used to be missionaries, and that's where my brother was born in Indonesia, got called back onto the mission field. They felt called by God, and so they went back out on the mission field. When I was about 8, I first went to Indonesia, but before that I was 7, and I've told you guys this before, but I went to Texas, and I was kind of basically psychologically traumatized, and I kind of developed a kind of very subconscious PTSD. The teachers kind of ruled with an iron fist, and there was a lot of violence, and there was a lot of threats on my life, and there was a lot of verbal and mental abuse. As a shy kid and a complete new stuff, I guess my sensitiveness basically internalized it all, and so I kind of became this really sensitive phobia to the confrontation and anger and yelling, and so I, in a way, kind of became this really hyper-vigilant, paranoid person who was always wondering who was going to yell and who was going to snap, or is someone going to try to stab me on my way home, because people would threaten that. And it was really interesting, and it wasn't like a racial issue or anything like that. I saw people as angry people or normal people. I never really had come in contact with that really intense anger and stress and anxiety or stuff. And so for me, it was just, there's normal people and then there's angry people. And so I was kind of suddenly thrown into this world at the age of 8 with really angry people and all sorts of abuse and yelling and, actual physical violence. And it came out of nowhere, and it kind of stuck with me for many, many years. When we were 8, we went to the missionary field and to Indonesia, and so I started to learn Indonesian in Bandung, which is the west side of Indonesia, where the Papuans eventually called the straight hairs, and so that's the Javanese, and so they're more I guess Chinese and Korean and more Asian looking. and then the Papuans themselves are more African American looking, or more African looking, dark skin. And so for them, and I'll talk about this in a bit, there's a little bit of a kind of a racial schism there. And so, I learned Indonesian on that side. My Indonesian teacher was my friend. We would go out on field trips together. I started having fun. It was a really good situation for me. And because of that, I felt like I was going back into normality. I mean, it was still really interesting because I was on the Christian missionary field, and I was a young kid, and I suddenly left my California home that I had never been out of, and I'm in a country where I don't know the language, and it's scary and hard, but at the same time, it's kind of fun and exciting and like an adventure, and so that's good. And then we get to Papua, which is the Indonesian half of the island of Papua New Guinea. And so Papua is the Indonesian half on the other side of Papua New Guinea, and Papua New Guinea is the Commonwealth country that's under the rule of the Queen and the British Empire and all that stuff. And so they speak English there, and it's a little bit different. And then right over the border is the Indonesian side, and everyone speaks Indonesian or all sorts of tribal languages, and it's very remote, and it's kind of the end of the earth scenario. And so it's really different. There's a lot more trash, there's a lot more garbage, and like I said, the native people have dark skin. And for me, I was a white kid. I never had any kind of racial issue with that. That never really shook me. Like, it did shake a lot of my classmates and a lot of people that went to this school. Because the horrible thing that people say is, oh, you don't see color. I didn't think of it like that. And it was just, all I really cared about in my PTSD kind of messed up psychological brain was, as long as no one's angry with me, they can do whatever the hell they want, they can look at whatever the hell they want. All I care is that no one yells at me. And that was the only thing that mattered to me. But it was different because like I said, the Javanese and the Papuans didn't like each other because it's two basically different kind of cultures. The natives versus the Indonesians who are trying to come over and I guess kind of tame them. And because my entire life I have been identified as different because I have, and you can't really tell at the moment, but it's like an afro when it's really big, and it's like an actual afro, not just like waves or something. It's like a full-on fro, and it's not quite a Jew fro, but it's it's interesting. And so the Papuans, the natives, they actually, the people that we were there serving and being with and spending time with and learning language with and going to school with, and my neighbors and all that stuff, they absolutely loved me, and they saw me different than all the white kids because I actually had curly hair, and they had curly hair just like me, and so they thought I was one of them, but I was one of the white kids as well. So I was kind of this barrier in between the two worlds, and because of this, I felt really not weird, but kind of privileged. They automatically loved me because they assumed that I was like them just because of my hair. Not anything with the skin, not the fact that I could speak Indonesian, but they trusted me because I had hair like them. And the people that they didn't like didn't have hair like them. They had straight hairs. So there was the curly hairs and the straight hairs, and because I had curly hair, me and my dad had curly hair, we were the good white people who understood them and, could speak their language. And to be honest, we were there just to help everyone and anyone, and Christianity was at the forefront of it, but it was really just about kind of helping people getting water systems, medical stuff. It was really kind of like kind of UNICEF volunteer work at the core of it, if you take away the Christian religious part of it. And so that was really kind of interesting for me to grow up. But then so I kind of fit in that side of things, but I didn't fit in with the other missionaries not because of my hair or my physical appearance or anything like that, but because I was a lot more liberal and a lot more democratic about things, and I wasn't as conservative and I guess religious extremist as they were, and they saw that as I guess weakness and sinfulness and kind of like I was a bad egg or a bad child or just a bad person in general. And yeah, so it was really hard because the people that I thought, the people that looked like that I was growing up with, all the other white kids at school and stuff like that, and just, the other Americans, the other people from my country, they hated me just because I wasn't as, I guess, religiously extreme, or as controlling, or as empowering, or as in conservatism as you can't listen to rock music that's of the devil, as they were. And because of that, they really judged me, and they kind of abused me emotionally, and they basically created this entire system that says you better not go near the Eastwood Boys because they're bad people. And as a kid who kind of grew up in this happy scenario, and then got the whole violent physical side of it, and then I go to this distant lands, and then it was kind of the emotional and mental side of it, where it was like mental abuse, as in, there's something wrong with you. You're not right. You're a sinner. You're bad. You're evil. Your heart isn't pure. You're just a bad person in general, and we hate you for that, and we don't want to be around you. And then, the other people who were just like, oh, we love you just because of the way that you look, and the way that you're one of us, and you can speak our language, and you care about us, and you actually have conversations, and you have curly hair like us, you must be one of us. And so it was this love-hate relationship, because I loved being there, and it was so beautiful and gorgeous, and the tropics, and I could speak the language, and the food was great, and my family was there, and I'm really close with my immediate family, and I felt like that was home in a physical sense, but all the people and the other missionaries that we were there with were really mean to me, and just for almost 10 years it was just pretty much almost hell, and they were really hateful towards homosexuality and anything that was secular, and anything that wasn't kind of really an extreme religious feel. And because of that, it just really kind of put me off. And coming home every 2.5 years for 6 months was really hard, because you come back home and you're like, okay, this is where I grew up, this is, I guess, what home is, because it was always trying to find what home is to me. And so then the other kids would look at me weird, because I was that missionary kid who went to Indonesia. It was like, oh, you're back from Indonesia, and all they wanted to talk about Indonesia, and all I wanted to do was kind of just be normal. And then I would go back to Indonesia, and the Indonesians would love me on both sides, because I could speak the language on one side because I had hair like them, and I was just trying to be a nice person in general. So they didn't really care that I was not as I was more secular than the other kids, and so it was great. But then I would go to school in this missionary community, and everyone would basically just abuse me, and I was the bad trouble child, and I kind of rode on the devil's advocate side of things, and I actually pushed and challenged people, and I just got tired of it, so I just started fighting back, and it just got worse. But so it was hard for me. It wasn't necessarily a racial thing or an identity thing or how I looked. I mean, those were factors in it, and trying to be in a distant country and being overseas and being a missionary kid and stuff. But it was just angry people and normal people in my mind, and so it was hard, and it was interesting. But it just kind of goes to show you, identity is a lot how you grow up and kind of what's home. And for me, I'd never felt like Indonesia was home, because the other people that we worked with hated me and basically psychologically and emotionally abused me for 10 years. And then California wasn't home because we left it, and I was always that kid who left it, and I never kind of grew up with the kids that I initially grew up with, and so because of that I wasn't a true Californian, I guess. And so I got that balance of the two things. Am I an American? Am I an Indonesian? Or am I a missionary kid even? Because I'm not, I guess, the religious box that they wanted to tick. And because of that, it's interesting. And this is horrible to say, because it's not true, and it's totally different to face things. But as a third culture kid, you feel a lot of the issues that a lot of other people with identity issues face, and it's not the same as minorities or like racial issues or anything close like that. It's very different, but it's hard. I'm not saying it's harder or it's easier, but it's hard. When people look at you and they or they hear about you or the way that you are, they just assume things. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is just that the thing that really kind of ate away at me is how people just assumed. They assumed because I listened to AC/DC that I wasn't, a good person, or how they assumed because I was in Indonesia I was some sort of weird, savage, kid coming back to the States, and that I didn't know what an ATM was, or that I was some weird, Tarzan type person. And just, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to think about because I didn't really know where I was gonna go with this, but I just want to, I guess, talk it out. But it's interesting, just how you look at someone and you listen to them, and just you can kind of tell how they react to your story and how they treat you as a person, and the assumptions that are made are sometimes really hurtful and detrimental, and it sticks with you for a while. So now I'm an American who's living in New Zealand, and I'm not a New Zealander, but at the same time I don't really truly identify as an American because I've only probably lived maybe half my life there, and most of it was when I was a kid. And I don't feel connected to Indonesia because I basically got kicked out of Indonesia at the age of 17, and all the people there were really abusive to me, and so I don't really have that tether. I kind of cut that cord from them, and so the only people that I guess have remained constant in my life are you guys, my internet friends, and my immediate family, and my wife's immediate family, where we met in Indonesia too. So she kind of ties me to Indonesia, and my parents tie me back to America and Indonesia, and then my brother lives in Japan, and I live in New Zealand. So I feel like, and then people hear my accent, and they're like, oh, you're American, and I'm like, yeah, I guess. So it goes back to the identity issue, and where's home, who am I, the things that define you, whether it's the color of your skin, or where you grew up as a kid, or what music you listen to, or how you act, and if you aren't religious enough. And it's a giant hoopla, and sometimes it just really makes me sad because people don't actually take those little elements away and try to see the real you. They just take the little elements that I guess define your life, and they do shape you, but they just make that you in your identity. So that's hard. So yeah, this has gone for 17 minutes, and I'll just stop talking. But it's just something that I think about constantly, and it's just something that I guess a lot of people face. And so at the end of the day, I guess just be you, and I love all you guys. My internet friends, Meredith, Maria, Andrea, Mike, Drew, Ken, and everyone. So, yeah. It's just, yeah. And, growing up is hard, and figuring out who you are is hard, and, try not to let the things that you've seen and faced in life is hard. Rough, but you try to push past it, because my brother had the same experience, and he reacted very negatively, and he became very angry at the system, and rightfully so. People abused him, and just like they abused me, and I was more internal, and he was more external, so he fought it more and was very verbal and very defensive and fighting back, and I just kind of internalized it and took it all on myself, and that's kind of where the depression and everything has come from, part of the place. And so, there's no really true winners when people are abused, because no matter what, it really does, it affects you as a person. So yeah, okay, I'm done talking. Sorry. I love you all.